What's going on, everybody? It is February 25th, 2026, and today I got the midweek gaming news roundup. We're just going to jump in with our first real story, though the second one is probably the exact same amount of importance as the first one. But PlayStation has shut down Bluepoint Studios. In a shocking turn that no one has expected, Sony has seemed to close one of its more popular studios. Bluepoint Games, known for and loved for a rather decent run of remakes and collections from the PS3 to current gen for Sony. Games such as the God of War collection and Shadow of the Colossus and Ico collection, with their last major release being the Demon Souls remake on PS5. Another side point to add is that Sony Germany, for some weird reason, asked fans what remakes they'd like to see after the announcement of these studios closing. You know, the things they specialized in. You know, the company everyone was hoping would remake Bloodborne. It, and I like Sony. I got love for Sony. You know, Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favorite games, I think, in the last few years. You know, the God of War games might not have been particularly for me, but I still recognize the artistry and the craft that goes into that. You know, and Sony has had the single player story genre held down for the better part of the last, 10 years since the Xbox One fumbled. So to see them go on constantly and it's have this attempt to disregard the thing that put them on top in the first place, it's bothered me. It's always bothered me. You know, they've been extremely anti-consumer and had a complete and total disregard for their fan base like these last few years, and I don't understand it. And you know, I want specifically not just the consumer in itself, but like Sony fans to expect and push better, because they have this weird desire where, believe me, you don't have to believe me or anything. They want to go, live. They want to push a bunch of different live services. It's the whole reason they bought, companies like Bungie and whatnot. They want live service games. They want that continued and continuous and always pushing forward revenue, that one of these games bring. But this isn't the way to go about it. But not one to be outdone. Microsoft is in a bit of hot water of its own as Phil Spencer retires and Sarah Bond has resigned, in another move that no one saw coming. Now, a lot of people speculate that this move is not done with the idea of passing the torch, but this carries the air of the old guard being booted out and higher-ups wanting to restructure for profit. Bill has had 38 long years at Microsoft, and he took the helm when the previous president, Don Matrick, pretty much shit the bed with the Xbox One's always online reveal. Don't get me wrong, there wasn't much Phil could have done with what he had been given with, or the amount of time he had been expected to turn it around. But his innovations like Game Pass brought a lot of value to the Xbox brand overall. But I do have to critique both Sarah and Phil for the lack of exclusives and the everything is an Xbox approach, along with sending Xbox classic exclusives to PlayStation. Though, with that being said, I do want to quickly speak on that hit piece. See, The Verge did an article on Sarah Bond that pretty much comes off as a hit piece, pretty much implying she was wrong with all the failures going on at Xbox. Though she had only really been the president there for 3 years? I can't help but feel they're looking for a scapegoat, and just pretty much they found one in Sarah Bond. It makes it paints an ugly picture of her that I can't honestly sit back and say, yeah, that makes sense. It doesn't seem like that, though. There are plenty of testimonies from they say that she was very unpopular. People did not like working with her, or that she was just outright difficult to work with. I think putting that blame on her and exclusively her that does not do the mistakes at Xbox/Microsoft. It doesn't explain everything, because I truly feel a lot of this stuff comes from corporate and higher up. Things like the Game Pass hike to $30, the push to make everything in Xbox was more than likely a result of them wanting higher sales numbers, because reports show that Microsoft is expecting a 30% profit per game Xbox put out, when other companies like Sony and Nintendo and any other studio is really only expecting about a 14%, which seems to be industry standard. But that's all I'll speak on that for right now. I may make another video, in the coming days, like really diving in on that, because I think there are a lot more problems going on at Xbox that can't be attributed to one person. All right, for our next news story, you can call this segment "You Are Some Really Aggravating Fucks." Some new dweebs have seemingly leaked the entirety of Resident Evil 9 story, spoilers and all. And honestly, it's getting pretty tired. You know, the people have been looking forward to this game. Developers have been working hard on this game, and to take all that time and all that effort that they've put into this, and the expectations of the people waiting on this to dash to the wayside by just putting spoilers out there, is kind of a slap in the face to them, to everybody. You know, if anything, kind of positive, we got a fucking war haiku from Hideki Kamiya about the leakers. And he says here, for your own selfish satisfaction, you're trampling all over the feelings of users who are looking forward to it, and the feelings of the creators who poured their all into making this. A detestable act that destroys everyone's happiness and deserves 1,000 deaths. May you be cursed to never play games again. And I have to agree, and shit, I'm very well inclined to agree. There's no reason to have such selfish behaviors on something everyone wants to enjoy. And that seems to be all the news I had this week. My main goal this week was to focus on the big stories. But you guys let me know. You want me to focus more on small stories, or you want me to keep it to just the larger stuff that everyone's talking about? Would you like the videos to be a little longer? Would you like them to keep them on the short side of length? You guys tell me, though. But that's all the time we have, though. If you like what you see in here and you want to see more, I just need you to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm doing this all by myself. I'm starting off something new, and your support would be greatly appreciated. I'm out.